Did you know over 70% of podcasts never make it past 10 episodes? And even fewer convert those listeners into actual paying clients. And yet, podcasting is still one of the most powerful trust building tools in your entire marketing ecosystem, if you know how to use it strategically. Welcome to the Wickedly Branded podcast. I'm your host, Beverly Cornell, founder and fairy godmother here at Wickedly Branded. And today's conversation is going to flip the way you think about podcasting, because we're not talking about downloads and fancy numbers. We're going to talk about conversion. That is what is the most important thing. You want to get people to do something, whether it's click or review or actually pay you money for something in doing this. So I am joined by a podcast strategist who specializes in helping financial professionals turn their podcasts into client-generating machines without the overwhelm, without the ickiness of having to get sponsors, and without guessing what to say next. Welcome, Virginia. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Beverly. Lovely intro. Great job. Thank you.
I feel like I'm being audited all the way through a conversation, just so you know, my listeners, because she does this for a living. It's so exciting to speak to other people who do this, because I feel like sometimes, especially with women, and my listeners are mostly women, we don't do this kind of thing for lots of reasons. Being visible is kind of scary to a lot of women. So doing this is a little bit scary in that way, but also from the tech side, it's a little bit scary. So tell me how you got to this place. Like, how did you decide this is my lane and I want to live here and help people do this?
Yeah. So a little bit about my story about how I got into podcasting was that I turned to personal finance podcasts, trying to get through my own debt situation. And going from like thinking about filing bankruptcy and like researching that and what are we going to do? And mind you, at the time I had a newborn and a 2-year-old. So all the stress, right?
The messy middle, yes.
So much. And those personal finance podcasts, various money coaches, personal advisors, whatever, I like binge listened to their show like obsessively. And I worked corporate at the time, and in between spreadsheets or whatever for corporate, I'd pull up my budget and fix something, whatever they said to do. Or we paid off our debt in 3.5 years. We started investing. We completely turned things around for the best. And I can very honestly say those shows and those people saved us. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with it at that point, but I knew obviously it worked. And I wanted to be a part of that. And then just that whole debt payoff story, other moms came to me saying like, what did you do? How did you do it? Like, show me the way. And so I launched a show back then, thinking I would guide women in the same way that I was seeking guidance. Because, side note, a lot of those people were dudes. A lot of the finance space is very prominently male.
Absolutely.
And nobody talked about like how much you spend on diapers and how much you spend on daycare and how expensive Montessori was. And like issues that I felt like families face. This is a completely normal issue. None of these dudes talk about this. So I'm listening to their advice and applying it, but then having to tweak it significantly because of our situation. So I was like, let me be the mom that's out there talking about daycare and diapers and budgeting. And did that for a little while. And then very quickly after launching that show, I attended a personal finance creators conference and had no idea what I was getting into. Okay. I just thought, hey, like, this is cool. Like,
sometimes that's best, Virginia. We don't really know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. And it originally was a blogger conference. And like at that point, it was like podcasting space was really cool and new or newish, right? It was kind of getting more mainstream. And at that conference, a couple of financial advisor women asked me to launch their show. This was not the plan. Okay. I said yes. I said, I don't know what I would have to charge you. Like, we have to work through this. They're like, it's fine. We'll work through it together. And so they were my first clients as far as production goes. A few months later, I had another financial advisor that we launched his show, and it's just kept going. So my show is no longer personal finance, as you can imagine. But yeah, we've completely transitioned, and I've been home now for about 7 years doing podcast production.
I love this for lots of reasons. One is women, we're the first generation of women to have businesses and to have financial stakes in the game with receptionists and people who protect their calendars and all the things. So he was struggling to get in front of the right people. And I said, well, I feel based on my experience of having a podcast back in 2007, a podcast would be amazing for you because, and he was writing a book. So he had a system and a process, which I thought was fantastic for a podcast. I said, you could share your experience, but also bring in your ideal target as a guest. And when you call them up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from MoneyWise podcast or whatever that is, they're going to schedule to be on your call because a couple of things happens. One, you're giving them visibility, and two, you're stroking their ego.
Yes.
And then it's up to you in that 30 minutes, hour, whatever your format is, to build know, like, trust, and then to maybe get to a problem and help them solve some little minor problem, and then be able to possibly work with them in the future. And as I'm telling him this, I literally left my body, Virginia. Like, I was like floating over top of myself saying, why don't you have a podcast, Beverly?
Oh,
Like, why are you not doing this thing that you think is so powerful and important?
yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I had decided I was going to be the best case study for my clients. So I was going to do all the hard things and show them what is possible by doing that. And so within 3 weeks, I started a podcast. But mind you, I had this other podcast I'd done for almost 2 years and did really well with. And so I used that strategy as like the core of the strategy for this one. And it's evolved certainly since the first episode. I was interviewing both men and women initially. Now I'm mostly women, but it has evolved as my niche has evolved and as my expertise has evolved, it has evolved. But I feel like the idea of a strategy, a very strategic podcast, my coach calls it the 1KO, your knockout. Like, what is your lead generation that's like your knockout strategy? A podcast can be really powerful for that. But you can't just press record and people magically come to you. Talk about some of the biggest mistakes people make when they start a podcast without that really important foundation of a strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. First and maybe most obvious, like as we're talking about it, but not typically obvious to the host, is that the show is entirely missing a call to action. Next step, like, how do I work with you? What's your thing? Like, how do I get in?
The ask.
Yeah.
Well, people use the ask, yes.
And that seems absolutely wild. But then when you talk to someone who, like through an audit or something like that, we discover that this is the big thing that's missing. We got to fix this. They're like, oh, I don't know what to say. I feel salesy.
Yep.
How do I work that in the conversation? Like just all this like awkwardness bubbles to the surface, and fear is the big thing. Like they have it in their mind, which part of this is correct, that the show is just really to establish rapport with these listeners. So no trust, you've mentioned it. Yes, 100%. But when I know and trust you, I want to take the next step with you. And I need it to be the easiest thing. I need it to be one link, one button, one simple URL, whatever it is, for me to just name an email. Boom, cool, I got this free thing. Maybe it's a video from you that's working really well these days.
Interesting.
A little tip there for folks. If you're what do I do for my lead magnet? That's what it's called, FYI. But if you're not telling people how to take the next step with you, it could be casual as could be. But guess what? They are just a listener. And there is no transition or bridge or anything over into your actual business. So that is like red flag or blinking light or whatever.
Hanging fruits of let's just at least put a call to action.
Rule number 1, okay? And it should be mentioned in the show. You can pre-record it, have it like intro and outro, like what, but there has to be something.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it should be in your show notes so that you follow written instructions as well.
Love that. That's a great tip.
Thank you. Another pretty glaring one is that the show isn't focused, or people say niche down, but then a lot of folks are like, what does that even mean? So when you look at your business and you're like, I solve these types of problems, you want to think about tangential problems that are related. If they have this problem over here, they also need me. And then those are topics that you can talk about on the show. I don't want, I don't want you talking about, use my example, like diapers in daycare, vacationing in Maui, fishing, seemingly random topics, unless you're really good at looping those all together and bringing them home as far as why all those things matter for your business. Podcast needs to be thought about as a business asset. I don't think you're going to be talking about like fishing and vacationing in Maui and stuff like that unless you are a travel agent. Okay.
Or if something specific happened there that maybe, I'm thinking about this.
So
I
like,
probably, as a marketer, I find ways to tell stories all the time. But
sure.
But I love this because when we do our Brand Spark experience, that 90-minute deep dive that we do with our clients, always start with their content pillars. These are the things you want to be known for.
Yes.
And you can go a mile deep on these 3 to 4 things that you want to be known for. And that repetition is so incredibly powerful. And how do you take it from all the different angles to really hone in so people know when they're talking to somebody, for example, I'm at a chamber event and somebody says, oh gosh, I'm looking for a podcast editor. I know, I have the perfect person. It's Virginia. She does this because you've talked about it in all the different ways. Stay in your lane and really owning your authority in those areas is huge.
Yeah. And listeners don't need to necessarily know how multifaceted you are and like all your interests. I know you're interested in those things, but that doesn't help them want to do business with you.
Ooh,
I know what I'm...
I disagree here, Virginia.
Ooh, okay.
Who you are in your story helps that narrative resonance, that connection to who you are matters. But you have to be careful. So I love that you're saying this, but I feel like, okay, so I'm just going to use a couple of examples. I've moved 28 times in my life.
Oh my gosh.
One thing I'm really good at is watching the world around me because I've always been the new girl, right? I've stepped into situations and I recognize patterns really quickly and how people work. I've watched people for a long time. Working with my clients, it helps me understand the patterns of their business. I also am a dancer. So I was danced for 18 years. I was a Zoom instructor. It's all about like working together, making sure you're watching each other and how you can create something better when you work with other people. So those skills translate to the work that I do with my clients. So the power of the story is key in how it connects. I think that's something you said a little earlier, how it connects to who you are. I do this often. Like I am a Stevens minister, for example. And what we are taught to do is walk beside people and listen to them so they don't feel alone. So many founders and entrepreneurs feel alone. So I resonate with that very strongly in having them be heard, having them feel like they have a safe place to share the journey that they've been on, the challenges that they're facing. And many times in those Brand Spark experiences, people do cry. And it's not they're like super emotional, sensitive people. It's just that it's been so overwhelming and just saying it out loud is a relief for them. So I think you can do it, Virginia. You just have to be really careful about how you do it.
Yeah. It's like what we were saying earlier. Like you can tell stories about the thing as long as it loops back to whatever your business is, right? What tends to happen, and I see this a lot, is that whether you're doing solo shows and just talking about these seemingly random things, or whether you're interviewing people and y'all get off topic and the interview doesn't seem to be going somewhere, right? And so there's that feeling of scatteredness or randomness or unpredictability that listeners can get when you aren't, as a host, really good at redirecting it back, which you are, Beverly. I already sense that. Pillars, like you said, when you work with a branding professional like Beverly, those can be your same pillars for your podcast. And sure, you can still enjoy all these extra things that aren't necessarily related to business. You could tell stories about them, but always loop them back. That's probably the biggest second mistake is like this kind of random content.
I agree with you. I was on a podcast once and these guys were chit-chatting before it started for 20 minutes about nothing. And it was a podcast about your weird story. And I have a very weird adoption story. So I was on there for that. And I was just really practicing my speaking chops. That's really what I was doing, was just using this as an opportunity to speak and get my story out. And I literally fast forwarded the whole first 20 minutes before I listened to the actual story. But I got to believe somebody who doesn't know my story isn't going to stick around for 20 minutes to listen to them jibber jabber to get to my story. So you're doing a disservice to your listener and to the guest, I believe, by messing it up a little bit in that space. So you do have to be careful and curate and take care and guide. You are the guide on the show. Guide your guest, guide your listeners, as well as hopefully positioning yourself as the authority in all of that, which is a lot of work and takes a little bit of time to master. It doesn't happen the first episode. Please don't listen to my first episode.
No, same. Also, that can sometimes be taken care of with editing. If you feel like I'm not great at redirecting my guests yet, like I rainbowed a little bit too much on that or whatever.
Yeah.
Edit it out. Make it a more concise episode.
Yes.
I even recently have had guests that just go off and I'm sitting there, we're deleting those excess, subscribe, share this, blah, blah, blah. Tag your friends on my reel or what, like all this.
Don't forget to leave me a review.
It's the review thing.
Yes.
Though we're deleting a bunch of those. And I do get pushback from hosts sometimes. They're like, but I really want reviews. I'm like, okay, but why? Because it makes you feel good.
But
you already have 50 reviews.
Doesn't it feed the algorithm a little bit too?
It actually doesn't.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, hold on, listeners. This is a hot take. I need to hear this. It doesn't feed the algorithm?
No. So the primary reason that you would want reviews on your podcast and like the 5 stars and all that is so that if someone else is checking out your show, they would read that review and say, oh, okay, this is for me. This is not for me. It's another layer of that, or I'm out for other listeners.
Interesting.
So as long as you have a few reviews and they're somewhat recent, you're doing okay.
I love that.
You just need a few, and you just need a few this year. But they really don't push the algorithm or push your show up or do, any of that. If you want to do that, then get featured by Apple. Then you're going to be at the top. And there's going to be requirements that they're looking for there.
Yeah. Okay. So talk about that. How do you get featured on Apple?
You can, and I would have to pull up the website. I could give it to you after the recording and you could put it in the show notes.
Show notes? Perfect.
Yes. But you submit your show, like you literally do an application to get featured in Apple. You have to have the proper size show notes, show cover art.
Okay.
So that's a big requirement, and they'll specifically look at it. Like when you launch your show, you can get away with your font being too small, your cover art being too busy, things like that. But when they are looking at featuring your show, they're going to be more strict about the visuals that are being put out there. You need very specific item met in your cover art. You're going to also have to submit like a widescreen, like a landscape version of your cover art, not just the square one. And then, of course, they're looking at content, longevity. You want to make sure that when you're submitting that you're totally ready with robust show notes, with calls to action, with links to your business, kind of all the check boxes done so that if you get featured, you're able to take advantage of that positioning. But yeah, there's a whole application. I'll send you the link.
I love this. This is a great tip. I love this. So I think this is so good because a couple of things that you said. One is obviously the reviews is more to stroke your own ego, which that is fine. Like we need a badass radar sometimes. Like podcasting can be a little arduous and it's the long game. So you are kind of doing it a week after week after week. And so having a few of those reviews can really help just from a mental state. And there is a place for that. But it's not going to help your algorithm, which I did not know. So I totally learned that today. I love that piece of information. It's making sure that they're kind of like a few relevant and timely, like they're not too much time between them so that it feels like you're fresh.
Correct.
Love this. This is such good tips.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you wish more people understood about like when you first start a podcast, like before clarity, before niching, before all that, what do you wish that they would understand before you even start the podcast? Hey, I know you're listening today because you're ready to take your business and your brand to the next level. But if you're being honest with yourself, maybe even feeling a little bit lost, but you've got this big vision and you know that you're meant to make a bigger impact. But sometimes it's so hard to know where to start and which direction to take. Does that sound familiar? You're not alone. So many purpose-driven entrepreneurs feel the exact same way as you. That's why I created the Clarity Quiz, a simple tool that helps you get to the heart of what's holding you back and shows you where you need to focus next. No more second guessing, no more spinning the wheels, just clear, actionable insights that give you the confidence to move forward, that next best step. Taking the quiz will give you a deeper understanding of your brand's true potential and what's standing in your way. And the best part, it only takes like 3 minutes, but the results, they could transform the way you approach your business and brand forever. So if you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed and you want to start showing up with purpose and clarity, go to wickedlybranded.com and take the quiz now.
Okay, what I would love for folks to do when they launch is think of the show as your recorded response to your most frequently asked questions in your business. So that, let's just say your first 10 episodes, they could be solo episodes, which features you over guests, right? So you are the expert. You're the one getting visibility. It's my show, right? You're the one out there. But I guarantee you have a list of things that people ask you all the time that you're like nearly sick of answering.
Because your FAQs, people, yes.
Yes. And so go ahead and record one episode per response. Tell a story with it, make it interesting, spice it up, whatever. Make sure there's a call to action so that they sign up with their email and get pulled into your business. But what you can do at that point is you have a little mini library that you've created that helps people when they're considering working with you, even in the process while they're working with you. So then you can use your podcast as this recommended playlist when you start to receive those questions again. Person A books a call with you and they have this list of questions and they want to use your service. You can say, hey, before we jump on the call, I'm really excited to talk with you next week. Here's my show. Go ahead and listen to episodes 1 through 5, whatever. And I believe it will really help you out and set us up for a really successful call. Use it like that, right? Use it as a tool. So not only will you have listeners immediately on that show, because I know people are Googling these questions as well. Hello, but your show would pop up as their solution. But then you've actually got a plan of how to use those episodes and who you can share them with. And of course, you can pull clips from them and post them on social. And there's so much you could do. But at first, I think that is the most tactical, practical way for a business owner to launch their show.
I have so much.
Yay. Okay.
I have so much.
Let's go.
Okay. So we talk about repurposing content on this show, about how you can create one piece of content and you can use it 1,000 different ways. And what Virginia is saying is exactly this. So it can go a couple different ways. I use my blog as my center point. That's my center reel of all of my content. That's my choice. I'm a writer. I like that. But somebody might be a storyteller and the podcast might be the perfect place for that. So you take your centerpiece of content, a podcast episode Virginia is talking about. You talk about a question. Now, not only is Google searching for that term, but now with AEO and AI, questions are the most sought after content for them. And that's what pops up. And this is huge. So then you can take that podcast episode and you can take the transcript and then you can tweak it to make it a blog post. Or you could take the blog post and make it a podcast episode. There's all these different ways. And then you can take clips, video clips, but you also can take quotes from there and use those in your content. There's so many ways to take that one piece of content you spent an hour on and slice it and dice it in 100 different ways to make content distribution so much easier for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you slice it and dice this, I promise you with all of my being that no one's going to realize that was all from one episode. They're not going to, even if they listen to the episode, they are not going to remember all those things. And if they do remember, they'll say, oh yeah, remember that quote. That was really good. It only affirms the things inside of them. And repetition is one of the most powerful things you have in your marketing to be known for things. So having some of that go out and building this bank, this content vault that you can repurpose that's evergreen, is huge. And then I love this added side of it of building a library you can send people to. Either, let's say on LinkedIn, someone asks a question. You're like, that is a great question. I just talked about this in this episode. Here's the link to the episode. Yep. Now you have value. You are contributing to the conversation. And you get to kind of talk about yourself. And I'm an authority here, people.
Yes, that's the trick too. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's
several of my clients, especially female financial professionals, they'll say that like the instant that they're able to use the podcast as like their answer tool, they're receiving like this different level of respect.
Absolutely.
And they didn't know how to like name that, or what was that vibe that I was feeling? Like, what changed in the room here?
Oh, good.
And they're like, it's the show. Like they'll tell, instead of when I say, okay, we should do this and this, and then they ask me more questions, they say, you're the expert. What should I do? And that shift is everything. That makes me like,
oh, so good. Gives me like chills. Yes, good. Yeah, because now you don't have to work as hard. You've done all the work and you can just kind of enjoy the authority you've built in that space episode. I do have a question because I love that you talk about solo versus guesting. I do it a couple different ways, and maybe you have other clients who do other ways too. So I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah.
I do every season on a specific topic, and the topic is in one of my content pillars. So every season I ask a question about that thing. One of the questions is about that thing. And then what's great is I'm writing a book. So I'm using the quotes from the podcast in my book. And then now with the book, I can send it to you and say, hey, Virginia, I quoted you in the book. You'll share it out to your friends because you're in a book.
Yeah. Super cool.
So you can I'm telling you, people, podcast.
Like, you're getting so much gold here. Like, I'm so excited. Yeah. So there is a very prominent voice in the podcast coaching space. His name is Adam. He is really great.
He's audited my podcast.
There you go. Amazing. And I follow him. I listen to his stuff. I get his newsletters.
He's great. Yes.
Wonderful. So he talks about like a 1/3 type division between your solo versus your guest episodes. Now, that's all to be fiddled with, right? That's just a recommendation. You don't have to take the advice that people give you. So I'm going to go back to, what are your goals with this show? And how quickly do you need to accelerate your authority?
I love it.
Because if your play is, I want to get these ideal clients on and interview them, and that is my play, well, then sure, do more interviews because you're speaking to your ideal client. If your play is, I need my face to be recognized, I need my brand to be out there, I need to be the authority, I want more speaking opportunities, you know, I'm self-centered, which that sounds bad, but sometimes that's like really important for
absolutely
business,
important.
Okay?
Yes.
I don't bash that. But in that case, I'm going to recommend you do more solo episodes. So maybe we do every other one, or maybe you do multiple solos and then work in one interview here and there. And what you would do in that case of the strategy, the interviewee that you choose gets to be really specific, because if you're doing 3 solos and then 1 interview, that's only 1 interview that you're airing per month. So you have, if you're doing a weekly show, so you have a month to look around at your connections and decide, who can I interview that aligns with my business, that we could have a great conversation, but that where I am like sharing the stage with them, not necessarily featuring them so much. So the intention of the interview is totally different.
Absolutely.
So it always goes back to your goals with the business and then designing a very specific strategy, not just for calls to action and music and timing and but like topics, who you're interviewing, why you're interviewing them, how often, how frequent your show's going to air. There's so much that you could get into.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. We could go for
So
hours.
much fun. I don't think how fun this is.
We're nerding out about podcasting.
Yeah.
Which is so fun. I love it. Okay. So I'm a total nerd, Virginia, and I love marketing and I love helping people really understand the importance and power of some of these tools and systems. Speaking of systems, though, I want to talk about systems for podcasting because I'm a systems gal, like I brand and what kind of I expect out of the show. So talk about systems from your perspective. Like obviously from my perspective, I have a very real strategy, but from your perspective and how you help your clients, like what does that system look like on your end?
Yeah. Okay. I love this. And this could work with any editing team, whether you are hiring people in-house, whether you're outsourcing, or whether you're working with us. So first, I love that we're recording on Restream. I'm going to recommend Restream or Squadcast or Riverside is mine that I record on. But what I'm going to say is a valid podcast recording platform. Okay. I had to make a shift a few years back to just say, I will not accept Zoom recordings. Sorry, folks, don't accept them because they are lower quality. You could have the greatest camera, the best microphone. The recording quality is lower with Zoom than these other systems. So first thing is that I'm making sure that you're recording in a great system, one of those that I listed. From there, what I ask my clients to do is either send me the link so that I can pull your recording off of that platform. I might have their username and password. It's fine. We work it out. You can send me an email. Hey, there's a new recording in my Riverside. I go pull it down, or they upload it for me to a specific link within our shared Dropbox folder. My team is also in Dropbox, so we get notifications when there are new uploads. That prompts my admin to enter that episode into Asana, assign different tasks to different teammates. Somebody's editing, somebody's cutting reels, somebody's writing show notes, somebody's doing graphics, and due dates are assigned. We take care of it from there. What that looks like from our client side is that we have had a strategy call at some point, whether you're launching or you get 3 of them, or maybe you've been with us for a while, you get a strategy call at the beginning of every quarter. So you know what your goals are that quarter, what you're going to do, topics, all that. So you record, whether you choose, which this is some of my advice, is that especially for women, fix your hair, do your makeup, pick out a couple of different shirts, sit down and record 3 episodes.
Yep.
Like change your shirt in between, put on a different color.
I don't even do that anymore.
Whatever you want to do.
I know my wickedly branded shirt. So
I love it. And some people are so conscious of that. Oh, I don't want to be wearing the same shirt in every single one of my episodes, or like all over my Instagram. It's like all the same shirt. They're worried about it. So I say, okay, fine. Like change shirts in between. That's sometimes even in interviews, if I'm thinking like they might go live around the same time, I might change shirts just so I'm wearing like blue on your show and whatever, some other color on some other show. But get all that planned out. That is a system in it of itself, right? Have a calendar block where you don't have appointments.
Yes.
There's no interruptions, whatever is going on. This is like my doctor's appointment with myself. And I'm going to sit down with my makeup and my hair and all of that. And I'm going to record 3 episodes. So again, from the client side, that's what you do. And then you're either sending me that email or you're uploading those recordings to Dropbox. And then the team takes care of it. The next time you hear from us, it's an email saying your episode is ready. It's planned to go up on this date. Here are the completed assets. You can review them if you want to. You don't have to. And, it's ready to go.
So while you're talking, I actually went onto your website. So I do the same thing strategically as I wear my brand colors on my show. I have wickedly branded behind me. This was like a $300 LED purchase on Amazon to set up my little studio space. And when I do my hair, I'll make it a recording day. So Wednesdays are my recording day. I typically will do my hair, do my makeup a little bit more. But I also have gotten to the point where, I am who I am. And sometimes I have gnarly curly hair that does not want to behave. And sometimes I am a little tired because I'm a mom. I don't let that get in the way of me showing up for my clients or for my listeners, because I feel like that is who I am. And I do feel like it comes across as my genuine authenticity comes across in my brand on purpose, that I'm human and there is a messy middle sometimes in all of this. And it's okay, but like not to have to be so perfect. Women live in a binary, Virginia specifically, where you have to dress and you will be way more successful being you and far less overwhelmed and overworked than you would be being very coiffed and like perfect. So relax in the sense of you get to create your own container to decide.
It's your brand. It's your content. It's your face and voice. Like, be yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Okay. So I have a magic wand. I don't know if you know this, but I do. I have a magic wand and I wave it every single episode. This is a segment where I ask you if there's something to do with marketing or branding, you can relate to podcasting even, that you have a question on or have been struggling with. Is there something that I could maybe help you with today? If I could wave my magic wand and make something go away or be perfect, what would it be?
I wonder if you were running a particular campaign, let's say it's like a certain call to action, and you're directing people in a certain direction. This lead magnet, this thing is what we're into. Do you think 60 days is enough time for folks to get that, to hear it?
What's the frequency?
So a weekly show.
Okay.
But then it's also multiple posts a week on social media.
Email.
You've got a weekly newsletter.
Well, I picked 30 days. Like I picked a quarter for a reason. There is a statistic about people need to hear something 11 times to remember it now, because many touch points in that time frame is possible.
Yeah. Okay. So a quarter minimum. And then you said you can't overdo it. So like we could stretch that out.
Oh my gosh. I actually take a lot of content. It's evergreen. Those FAQs you talked about, those aren't going away typically unless some tool comes out or whatever. Even then you can talk about the tool for like 10 times. And people, repetition is your friend. Where I see so many brands, Virginia, I think miss the mark is they think there has to be bright, shiny object syndrome. And they don't stay true. And if you listen to like Seth Godin or some of the really big marketing minds of the world, you being consistent and repeating your brand promise is your power. That is where your branding really takes root. So I feel like, don't be afraid to be a little boring to yourself, because you're not being boring to the people who have that problem. They're looking for the solution to the problem and you are giving them answers.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That helps.
So good.
It's a great question. And I think so many people, there's so many bright, shiny objects when it comes to marketing. There's so many ways you can do things. And I come from a little bit of old school because I've been doing it for so long. And some of those things psychologically still really work. And it is about impressions. It is about number of times. It is about building the know, the like, and the trust. I do suggest like variety of content, right? So reels and infographics and blogs. And you can say the same thing. If I write a blog post about the top 3 ways to do something, and I do a podcast about that, then I could do a carousel that has 3 things on it. Then I could do an infographic with those 3 things highlighted. And somewhere along the way, that visual or that thing will connect with someone's brain because they're looking for a specific piece of information, or that title it was different for them that got their attention, or the hook was the best hook that was specific to them. Don't be afraid to be repetitive, because I promise you that no one is going to be able to quote your content unless they're your mother or maybe your husband, that you just don't, nobody really has those kinds of raving fans that would be able to do that, because nobody cares that much about your business like you do.
Yeah.
Really. But
True.
Truly. So don't be afraid. In fact, embrace it fully, to be repetitive. Just try to take it and make it as many kinds and types of content you can. Let's that repurposing magic that I talk about in your content vault. Ideally, Virginia, after a year of doing a podcast, you should have enough content for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
At least 5 years.
And a lot of times that's where you run into, okay, great, what do I talk about now? Because you feel like you have that year of content. I could repurpose this for 5 years.
But you can say it again.
Yeah, exactly.
You can say it again. Because I bet you probably have a little twist to it now that you didn't have a year ago.
Sure.
Maybe it's a client story. Maybe it's a client experience. Maybe it's a client mistake. Maybe it's a mistake you made even. I did this thing, but now I know this, and this is why.
Yeah.
And that learning can be the thing that somebody connects with. So don't be afraid to take it and do it again and just adding little elements even to it.
Yeah.
The story, you talked about this earlier, add a story or you can do lots of things to
Spice it up. Yeah. Make it fun. Make it new. Yeah.
And you can take the same content and have 10 client stories that can go with that piece of content. Because you've done this how many times, day in and day out, you have those stories of people making mistakes or people kicking it out of the park, hitting out of the park of whatever they did. So don't be afraid to, because again, our brains are so interesting. What might resonate for me on the 10th time, I might actually get it.
Yes.
Like you had to hear it 10 different ways to go, oh my gosh, that's what you do. That's the thing that or that customer story or that learning you had will be the thing that connects to this moment. He whips that wand out and does like a big old spell. And it's spring break. There's thousands of people around him. And he was Harry Potter doing that spell with all of his confidence. And I talk about confidence from the perspective of so I get to live out some fantasies in that. And with the Artemis, I'm an astronaut. So you can take your stories and apply it to even your favorite TV shows or what your children do. Or there's just so many things I've been able to take from my life and connect it to the work we do because I see it in everything now. I see it in everything. Even I love to garden, for example. And I was just planting my garden the other day. And when you cultivate a garden, you have to give it fertilizer and you have to make sure that you give it water and sunshine and all those things. And we as business owners need to be cultivated too. And what does that look like for you? Because if you're going to grow and be strong, you need good roots and you need, how do you fertilize those roots as a founder? So much the analogy is rich with metaphors and opportunities. So I feel like you can take the story, the FAQ, and you could apply it to whatever's happening and trending. You can take it and you can apply it to something that's happened in your life. You could take it and apply it to something that's happened with your client. You could take it literally 1,000 different ways to talk about the same thing. And maybe that one thing, when Taylor Swift came out with her album, I talk about Taylor Swift from my marketing branding. She's a genius. So I will refer to her all the time. But the thing that I think she does the best is she connects to her audience. So when I talk about connection and how you resonate with the audience, she's a great example of how her fans have built such a community around her, the friendship bracelets, and they know all the words and all the things that happen, the signs, everything they do to be part of that community is so powerful. And how she does that with Easter eggs and how she does that with how does she with her launches and all the things. So anyway, I talked a lot about this, but I do feel like you, and I may cut some of this out, but you have the opportunity to use every single element of your experience. And I don't think everybody thinks that way. That, I bought this new sparkly stapler and how it just makes me happy. And what are the things in your dynamic? But don't get bored by watching the world around you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a great question. I love it so much. Okay. So let me ask a question. I have a couple more things. What does it mean to you to be wickedly branded?
Ooh. I feel like the wickedly piece translates in my brain to be bold, to do not necessarily something you're afraid to do, or again, that doesn't match with who you are, but to be truly your boldest, most confident self. And if you want pink and purple to be part of your branding, okay, do it,
Yeah.
I've long been obsessed with teal and purple. So that's what you're going to see in my branding.
Yes.
So yeah, and not just colors, right? We talked about earlier, show up as your authentic self. If you want a bedazzled microphone, get it. Do things that maybe not everyone else does, that you have a feeling toward, or just something that you're drawn to.
Makes you happy.
Yeah, do that thing. Stay put, right?
Yes. Even the magic wand. Nobody else is doing magic wands in their podcast. It's kind of my thing, but that makes me happy. And
Yeah.
so when it's authentically you, everybody talks about branding as being a differentiator. And the differentiator is you because you are uniquely different. And so
Right.
the things that make you happy, the things that bring you joy, the things that are part of you and your life, that can be the thing that makes you unique. So fully embrace yourself and be your most authentic, boldest, bravest self. And that is a beautiful example of be branded. Absolutely. I love that so much. Oh, goodness. We have chatted for so long. How can our listeners find
abundance.com/conversion-blueprint?
I love it. I love the free download. Take advantage of that. A good call to action, a good ask can change your business. Even if you get one extra person who does the thing every month, it can make a big difference in your business. So that's a great tool for you to download. Say it one more time. It's podcastabundance.com/conversion.
Blueprint. Blueprint.
Okay, blueprint. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll give you the link for the show notes and all that.
We'll definitely put it in the show notes. We'll put all those social things and everything. And we did the bad thing. We gave 4 different places to find you.
We did. We will.
But those will all be in the show notes. So it's very easy for you to find. Thank you again, Virginia. This has been super fun nerding out on branding and podcasting. Such a fun conversation. I really hope my listeners find today's episode, gave them new ideas, but hopefully inspire them to take a small step or action. Mm-hmm. Because what I know for sure is that everyone's message matters and their work matters. And the world needs to hear what you have to say, whether it's in a podcast or in a blog post. Those are important things that you're sharing with your audience and your target market. Marketing isn't just about visibility. It's also about the ultimate impact that you make at the end of the day. It's about connecting with wow, what an incredible conversation we just had. I hope that this episode lit a little bit of a fire under you to finally bring your brand to life in a way that feels true to you. Remember, clarity is the spark, but activation is that fire and flame that keeps your message and your visuals and your strategy aligned, and the confidence that follows. So does that lovely thing called momentum that you've been waiting for. So if today's episode, if you loved it, make sure you are subscribed to the Wickedly Branded Marketing Podcast so you never miss an insight or a conversation. Until next time, dare to be wickedly branded.